My name is Nicole, Nicole Kopi. I'm the owner and Pilates and yoga teacher at Blue Heart Studio in San Antonio, Texas. And today I'm with Kay. And Kay, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. I've read over your bio many times. I'm super excited to work with you. There's so many things in here that I'm so inspired by, and I can't wait to hear your story. So we'll just let you introduce yourself to everyone.
Thank you so much, Nicole. It's so great to be here chatting with you and with everybody else that's listening. And I just have so much gratitude to be able to share myself and share what I'm doing with your community. So I'm really excited to get to know everybody and to be a part of this incredible, community that you've been building and nurturing for so long in San Antonio. So thank you for that. Yeah, so my name is Kirsten Wilkinson, but some people call me Kay. And my background, it's always an interesting story, as we all have. But I used to be a professional ballerina. So I come to you first and foremost as a mover, always a mover. And from that professional world, I was in a life-changing car accident that basically shifted and broke half my body. And I wasn't able to stay within that professional realm of dance after those injuries and after my recovery. And so, with all of that, I started to think of, okay, how can I stay in the movement world? What does that look like? Yoga was one of my recovery, what's what I'm looking for, practices, I guess. So, right, yeah, I went into Bikram yoga. The hot yoga was the thing that my body really liked. So I started becoming a yoga practitioner over time, became a yoga teacher and a yoga facilitator. But I wanted to do more. And so I started a very small nonprofit called Legacy Motion. And originally, the nonprofit went in and did dance preservation. So I was really interested, went and got my master's degree in dance preservation, was really interested in learning more about traditional dance forms and how they provided culture, community, sanctuary, healing for the people around the world and what that looked like. So I was going to places and experiencing and being welcomed in by communities in order to document their dance forms. Um, and when the dancing was happening, it was so joyous, right? There was so much joy and there was so much love when the festivals were going on. There was so much just connection and all of these incredible things that were happening. And then when the festivals ended or the dancing had to commence and stop and people had to go into their daily lives, there was so much trauma. There was so much trauma. And so to watch this healing power of movement and really to be viscerally inside of that within these communities was such an honor. And also I knew there was a connection. So our mission in my nonprofit started to shift and expand. And I started to learn more about psychology and nervous system regulation when it came to movement. And I took a whole bunch of trainings. I went back to school again and basically then expanded our mission to do what we do now, which is offering tools and methods, trainings, programs for individuals in alternative mental health care that really has to do with movement, somatic, body-based, not only talk therapy. How can we shift nervous system regulation from a place that ex is expected to happen only in our mind and get our body involved, right? And that has made such a huge difference with my own personal healing and my story, and also with the communities and the people that I walk alongside. And then I started my own small private practice. I had a lot of people that were questioning and asking, "Hey, can I get in on this? How can I do this with you?" So I also filled a need there. And so I have a small private practice as well. And I do somatic therapy for individuals and communities that are in need of balance. Yeah, balance. And I know that that word regulation kind of comes out quite a bit, which is not a bad word. But for me, it's more about balance. How can we experience the hard, experience the challenge, experience and sit with and be with all of the things that bring us into this world in the way that we have to experience it? And then how can we find the balance on the other side of the calm?
Mhm.
Yeah, the respect, the rest, all of those things. So, yeah, so that's kind of my personal story. Again, a little bit of my experience having gone through a physical and emotional and mental trauma of losing a lifestyle, and then also the gift of gaining something more, learning something different, and how I can pass that along.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
when you say balance, it makes me think of the balance between like the mind and the body.
Mhm.
As you're talking, one of the things that was coming up is I'm a Navy veteran, and I have been through a lot of veteran therapy. I've been through a couple of different therapies, and the therapy that really worked the most for me was things that landed me in my body. Specifically using I rest yoga nidra as a therapeutic modality, so the co-meditation as a therapeutic modality. And once I was able to root things down into my body. That for me is when the healing really started to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that, right? Yoga Nidra. And thank you for your service. Also, just an incredible, incredible story that you have to tell as well. And this is what we're talking about, right? Our ability to not only co-regulate, but self-regulate. And it's a really incredible thing when we talk about it on a human to human level. And also our regulation in nature, right, with animals. Yeah, let's not forget about our ability to regulate with those that are around us and other living beings. But when we talk about regulation, there's this really interesting thing. It's a biological fact. If you take one heart cell from one individual and another heart cell from another individual and you place them in two petri dishes side by side, they'll beat at their own rhythm. They'll be individual. Yeah. If you take one of those heart cells and place it into the petri dish with the other heart cell, eventually they'll beat together. Right? And this is what we're talking about when we're talking about support, when we're talking about restoration. I like that word of restoration better than healing a little bit better, because it offers a foundation of what was and also then what can be built around what already is working, right? It's not about fixing something, it's about nurturing and providing what can be surrounded or a foundation of what can then be built on top of that or, included on top of that. So I really like that word of restoration. Yeah. And so that's all part of it. And we all have our ability to regulate, and we also all have our ability to learn how to find other restoration and regulation skills, so that we can be that calm nervous system in the room for those individuals that might need it. And this is also what we're talking about here is how can I be that calm nervous system in the room in the moments that's needed? And then also how can I seek that out and get that support when I need it and knowing the difference,
Mhm.
right? Yeah.
I appreciate restorations. That also reminds me of restoring back to what is a natural state of being, something that is already here, something that I already have, something that I was given when I was born. Is this restoring into that space that I already have? So I appreciate restoration probably more than healing. I think healing might be a little overused, probably even in my own vernacular. So I like that, the introduction of restoration instead of healing.
Yeah. And you sparked another thought in me too, which is this word of resilience. Oh my goodness, right? Resilience is all over social media. It's like, oh, be resilient, build your resilience, right? All these things. And I love how you just brought in this factor because for resilience, when I hear building resilience, it sounds really exhausting. It sounds hard. Yeah, it sounds really hard to me. But you just mentioned, right? Restoration is innate. So is resilience. Resilience isn't something we build. It's something that is innate in all of us. It's not for some of us, it's for all of us. And it's something we nurture.
Mhm.
It's something that we nurture rather than build. And so, how can we, as facilitators, as individuals, as humans in this world, how can we offer opportunities for ourselves and for others to make their resilience more accessible? It's not that it's not there, it's that there might not have been opportunities for it to be as accessible. And so, how can we bring that forward? How can we um, collectively find those moments where it's like, ah, right there. Yeah, right there. That's where it lives. That's where it is inside of you. And then practice in that to bring that forward over and over again. So it becomes something that is a lot easier. It doesn't seem as difficult when the challenging times get in our way when we have those challenging times.
I mean, we're
Yeah.
just coming off of the holiday season, and the holiday
Mhm.
season has its own stresses for a number of reasons. And it has its own stresses for going back to your family, right? I mean, like that's always what is the quote is something like if you think you're enlightened, just go home for the holidays.
Yeah, Ram Dass, I think said that. Yeah, it's like, oh my gosh. Yep, exactly.
But I
Yep.
love that idea of nurturing. Like the word nurture is such a it's a buzzword for me. It's a word of engagement for me and it's something I move toward. Like I think of the one of the best ways that I can nurture myself is through good food. And so when we're having this conversation about, nurturing it, I start to recognize that it's like, what are you engaged in? What are you putting your awareness towards? What are you putting your focus to? Am I moving toward a place that is nurturing, or am I moving to a place that is causing more stress? And it's like, where are you putting your energy in which direction? Because it has an impact on your way of being moment to moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I love that. I love that. Yeah, that really resonated with me, Nicole, of the, moving to, right? Moving towards, leaning in, right? Yeah, all of those practices that we can do and how we can nurture that. Yeah, how we can support that within ourselves and then also within communities and with the people that we're walking alongside as well. Um, and I just had a thought too, when we talk about the idea of challenging experiences, yeah, stressors, activators, triggers, all of these things. As humans, this is part of our human experience, so we don't get rid of those experiences. Yeah, life, my dad always says life is a four-letter word sometimes where it can just hit you in the face, right? And so we have to navigate them and this is what's expected. And I think it's so interesting. There's been a lot of dialogue around um being calm all the time. And first of all, we're not designed that way, right? Our nervous system is not designed to be calm all the time. We're supposed to ride the waves of, sympathetic, active, fight or flight, and parasympathetic down into rest and digest, right? Hopefully they're not extreme, right? We're trying to kind of assist when it becomes really extreme with that wave, but making it something that we are constantly sort of, riding along. And I think that's one of the things that gets confusing for some of these dialogues and these conversations is that, oh, just be calm, just breathe. Yes, and, right? Yes, and you also, we're supposed to feel when it's difficult. We're supposed to feel when things are hard. And when we can, so it's not about getting rid of those moments. It's about being able to go from that difficult moment and what that feels like in our body back to calm eventually, back to the rest and digest, right? And how much space is there in between? Is it something that takes a really long time? And depending on the event, yeah, it can take a really long time, especially when we start talking about grief or something that's chronic, right? Something that's ongoing. But also, we can shorten that amount of time. How long it takes our physical body to go from, oh my gosh, my heart's beating out of my chest to now I feel a little bit better. We can shorten that time, right? And what that does is that widens our window of capacity for the next time that that happens. Right? It widens our window in order for us to be able to sit in that space of, I can do this. I can handle this. I can get back here eventually. I know the path and I know that it's there. Might have to clear away some brush, right? Every once in a while. Might have to do a little bit of, bushwhacking to get back on that path, but I know it's there. And this is what we talk about when we talk about nervous system balance. Coming back to that idea of nervous system balance, being able to be like, ooh, right now it's like this, right? Ugh. And also holding on to hope for shift. I can get back here. And for some of us, that takes us lifetimes, years, depending on what we've been through. And so to be able to shorten that time to get back to that space of calm, to get back to that space of, ooh, I feel a little better. Yeah. That pathway gets more and more clear every single time we're able to do that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so, what does it look like for someone who is in a state of dysregulation? Someone who may
Mm.
just be being introduced to this idea of the central nervous system and regulation and dysregulation. Like, what are some of the clues that someone is dysregulated? They can look at themselves, or they can maybe, if you're a teacher and you're looking at a child, you can tell by the way that they're acting that they're dysregulated.
Yeah, this is a great question. And obviously it's going to be different for all of us, right? All of our nervous systems are different. But one of the things I always keep in mind, especially when I'm working with my private clients, is am I witnessing anything that seems to be coming up as too much, too fast, too soon, or not enough? So this might also be one of our definitions of a challenging experience or trauma, right? That buzzword of trauma. So too much, too fast, too soon, or not enough. And how this can physically show up in our system is we might live on opposite ends of a spectrum. Yeah, so we might be super, super anxious all the time. Yeah, we might be hypervigilant looking around, or we might be really cathartic, sleepy, tired, right? The opposite. I don't care. Yeah, it doesn't matter that the fire alarm's going off. I'm just going to stay in bed. Yeah, that can also be a sign that somebody is dysregulated. There's some dysregulation happening, not balance. Also, we see it in our sleep patterns. We see it in our digestion. Digestion's a big one. I have a lot of clients that come to me that when we start talking, we start getting to know each other, I'll start asking those intimate questions about how are your eating habits, right? How's your digestion going? And most of the time, they'll say, "Oh gosh, it's terrible." Yeah, I have indigestion, I have heartburn, I have constipation, all of these things. So definitely how you're digesting your food is going to be another way that could be an indicator. Um, Also that ability of emotional, I'll call it, we'll say regulation, but are you feeling things? Are you not feeling things? Yeah, we have this incredible ability as humans to protect ourselves. This is part of what our nervous system does. Yeah, it's here as a protector. We go through a fight or flight feeling. Yeah, kind of our heart rate increases, our breathing changes, our peripheral vision changes, our digestion slows down when we get into threat. This is all natural. This is supposed to happen because it puts us into a state of getting out of there or being able to fight our way out, right? And so when we're in that state too much, everything can start to shut down. We go into what might be called a freeze state. And so dysregul or disembodiment and disassociation is also a way of protection because the body is feeling too much, too fast, too soon, right? So there's so many different ways that can manifest as well. Yeah, being cutting ourselves off emotionally from our loved ones, having perpetual patterns of relationship or non-relationship, not being able to physically feel or express any of our emotions. Some of this might have been learned behavior because of survival, and some of it now might be also learned behavior because of survival, something that happened to us. It's like, ooh, I don't want to go in there. That is scary and dark and feels bad. So when we start to shut that down, that's also a way that we're seeing what we might call dysregulation or a nervous system kind of shift or dysregulation. What other things do I see? Sleep, digestion, physical, right? Pain that has no explanation. Yeah, chronic pain that has no explanation, headaches, nausea, joint pain, back pain. Yeah, any of those types of things, definitely seeing that might be something that we see. There might also be expressions on the face or lack of expression. So if and I know you asked, how might somebody see this in children or see this in people within their spaces? So if we're seeing no expression, yeah, kind of that deadpan look, disassociation, disembodiment. There's no physical expression that's happening in the face. The opposite can be true as well. Remember, two ends of the spectrum. A lot, a lot of facial expression, a lot of random body movements, not knowing where they are in space. Yeah, bumping into things or kind of being a close talker. Yeah, not knowing personal boundaries. That might be one of the things too. Yeah, that we might see. Closed off body language or really open body language that might not be appropriate to the conversation. Yeah, all of these things might be things that we might be seeing. Um, Frequency or no frequency in crying. Yeah, expression of sadness, grief, any of those things. Yeah, there's so many different ways that it can show up. And mhm, those are some of the ways that I know I see it in my
Yeah.
personal practice and in my spaces.
I mean, a lot of that is, I understand and have felt and experienced myself. I didn't have digestion issues until I opened a studio. And then all of a sudden, I'm having issues with digestion and I'm having to go to the gastrointestinal doctors and so on and so forth. And they're like, "Are you stressed?" And I'm like, "Of course I'm stressed. Of
Yeah.
course." Yeah,
Yes.
so that was a great like aha moment for me. I was like, "Oh, like here it is in action."
Yeah.
Also, I mean, I've been sober now for 5 years. And one of the things that I recognize at the height of my drinking career is that I didn't at that time, in any way whatsoever, know how to regulate my emotions, understand what I was feeling. My emotions were so strong, and I was using alcohol as a way of self-medicating to an extent that wasn't helpful at all.
Yeah. And congratulations on your sobriety, by the way. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, fist pump in there. Yeah. And you bring up such a great point, and this is also part of it, right? So when things are feeling in the body too much, too fast, too soon, or not enough, if we're missing something as well, if we're missing that nurturing, maybe that we feel like we should have gotten at some point in our life, or missing support, or we're missing, other parts or other things that we're thinking that we need, that can also be a way or a place where our body will then dysregulate. Um, but coming back to feeling, so that's also one of the, how do I want to put this? It can be a tricky spot. Yeah, our human environment, our internal environment, once we if, for example, dysregulation or disembodiment happens, that can start to feel like our pathway to safety or assistance. Yeah. And when I say assistance, substance use, for example. Yeah. And so we're needing assistance in order to feel or in order to get what we might call emotional relief or emotional, right? Sort of just stay away from all of these big feelings that can come up. And then that becomes a pattern. And so our system forgets. Our system forgets how to handle those emotions. And then so when it does start to feel anything that's close to it, it's like, oh no, let me reach for that, whatever it is, right? Or oh no, let me shut this down. Yeah. And so then when that becomes a pattern, feeling again, suddenly having awareness of that internal environment can be super scary and really uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And this is also part of that widening of window of capacity, right? Suddenly, when we start to ask somebody or invite somebody, well, what are you feeling? And they're like, no way. I don't want to go there, right? Because when I feel it hurts, when I feel it's sad, when I feel it's shame, when I feel or whatever it is, fill in the blank. And so what's one of the ways that regulation can happen or balance can happen is to gently and slowly start to offer opportunities for people to feel again without having it become too much, too fast, too soon.
Mhm.
Yeah, re-traumatization. And this is something that I also see quite a bit in my practice is people that have gone into these really incredible spaces working with people that, definitely are doing things, but it's too fast, right? It's too fast. And so finding this beautiful swing, and this is where we start to understand a little bit more about titration and pendulation. So how much can you lean in and then know that you can get back, right? We kind of talked about that. Can I be with the discomfort, but what's my pathway back to safety, whatever that might be? Yeah, in my nervous system, getting back to that feeling of calm or getting back to that feeling of, okay, that's enough. That's the pendulation. How much do we lean in? And the titration is the back and forth. Right? No, sorry, I said that wrong. The titration is the lean in, the pendulation is the back and forth. Yeah. We're pendulating between this is hard, it feels uncomfortable. I'm okay. I got this.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so that's also something that takes practice. and it can take guidance as well and support. Because for us to expect that we should be able to do this on our own, no, it's not yours to carry. It's ours to carry,
Mhm.
right? And that's something that I also find in our society right now is there's an expectation that we should be able to do this by ourselves. Never, never.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's talk a little bit about emotion,
yeah.
because this is, I mean, this is a leading edge for me. Like that, as an iRest practitioner, as an iRest teacher, as a yogi, it's first of all, I know very well disassociation. I know what it is very well to just flip right out and go to a happy place and just pass over whatever is moving through. Like my family, I come from a family that's like, that doesn't necessarily invite emotional responses,
Mhm.
right? Isn't excited to see crying, doesn't know how to comfort and nurture through tears. And so tears really aren't welcome. And then for a long time in my drinking career, alcohol became a way of me to emotionally release. Right. So that was, and again, all these things in hindsight that are, that's, hindsight's 50-50, that comes in very clear, didn't know what it was at the time. So emotions, and as a yogi, what was so valuable to me as a yogi was learning how to invite in an emotion, something uncomfortable that I was feeling, and just invite it in and be able to be with it. But the thing that I recognize is being able to be with it. It's like I can be with it, and then I can kind of calm myself down, whether it's through breath or whether it's through movement or walking. Walking and talking and hard conversations has always been really useful to me because it helps regulate what I'm feeling. But what I recognize is, and this is the leading edge for me, what I recognize is there's a lot of anger, and anger is a scary emotion to come across. It's not necessarily welcome in women, right? Like that, like a woman's rage is
Hmm.
not, it's not a feminine, beautiful thing.
Yeah,
And so there's a little bit of there's a little bit of something behind that. But at the same time, is like if I can move into the feeling of it, it's like I can be with the feeling, but what about the release of it?
yeah,
And that right there is the leading edge for me is like, okay, I can be with it, I can feel it, and I can downregulate and move away from it. But what is the release of it?
yeah.
Is it necessary? Is it needed? And what happens when I don't release it? Where does it go?
Yeah, this is, oh my gosh, Nicole. Yeah, I'm so happy you touched upon this. Okay, so when you're partly talking about discharge. Yeah, you're partly talking about integration. And both of those are a really key element to doing this work as well. And I feel like have I feel like there's a lot of opportunities for discharge for some people, but there's not a lot of opportunities for integration. And this is where it can be sort of like you get stuck in this half loop thing that happens in your nervous system at that point. So what I'm hearing you ask is that when there used to be or listening a little bit to your history, right? Listening a little bit to the environment that you grew up in, emotional expression was not something that was learned. It wasn't welcome, right? It wasn't nurtured. And this is something that I hear a lot of because it can be difficult, right? Especially, and then all of a sudden we get into transgenerational trauma and yada yada, but we won't go into that right now. But um, so it can be difficult to sit with those emotions, not only personally, but then to watch somebody else have those emotional expressions as well. Because we're like, oh my God, what do I do? Right? How do I sit with this? What do I do? Um, and so when finally we have opportunities, like you said, through yoga nidra, through movement, to start to feel into what it feels like to actually understand, yeah, have a better definition of, okay, this is anger. This is what anger in my body feels like. Okay, this is sadness, right? This is what sadness in my body feels like. And being able to do that, like you said, through your practice of yoga, amazing. And what are also the healthy expressions of those emotions that are able to happen, maybe in the moments, right? Maybe not, because we might not be able to be in a space at that moment where that can be expressed or it can come out or be discharged, quote unquote, discharged. And the discharge, basically, what we're talking about is a completion of a threat response cycle. So, threat response cycle is rest and digest. Yeah, so here's our rest and digest, which is where our nervous system likes to live. Yay. Right, here it is. So, when something triggers us, activates us, threatens us, or we start to go through this whole cacophony of both hormonal and chemical changes in our body. For example, also your digestion shuts down, right? Because we want to get ready to fight or to flee. And so everything, all of our energy is preserved. So we swing down eventually through all of these things that happen. So, and this is involuntary, A. B, it happens in milliseconds. Yeah, we don't get to choose. We don't get to choose how it happens. We don't get to choose what the next result is. Do we run away or do we fight? And so that is also determined by our individual nervous system. That's involuntary. So we swing down from that rest and digest, threat, activation, trigger, whatever it is, swings us down. Now we're in that fight or flight. Yeah. So in that fight or flight, now what can happen is that, okay, I can run away. Phew, right? You're off. You run away. That's the discharge. That's the discharge that's happening in that moment that starts to bring you back up. There's resolution. You come into a place that feels safe again because you took action. Your nervous system was able to physically take action involuntarily. Pew, you were off. There was an opportunity to run. Your nervous system took it. And then you come back and eventually you look around and you're like, phew, made it, right? You're back in that rest and digest. What can happen, however, is that if we can't actually take the action that it takes for us to get away from the threat, or it feels like there's an incompletion of whatever this is, it can't be expressed emotionally in that moment or later. We can't have the hard conversation. Everything gets pushed down. All of that fight, flight, freeze energy gets pushed down in our nervous system. We're looping in that bottom part of that cycle. And we're constantly feeling in threat because there was no opportunity for that emotional release or for that action, yeah, that self-agency to happen. And so it's an incompletion of the cycle. So now instead of this big loop that we've closed, now we're just like circling back around to I feel threatened and I'm angry. I feel threatened and I'm sad. I feel threatened and, right? I got to run away. And everything is, I got to get out of this room. Yeah, I got to get out of this space, right? Because I wasn't able to complete that. So this is what is happening in our nervous system. So finding healthy opportunities for expression when we notice that it's like, wow, I am super angry. Yeah. And I am not really sure. Maybe I know exactly what I'm mad about, or maybe I don't know what I'm mad about. Right. But I know I'm feeling what anger feels like in my body. How can I have a healthy expression of that? Do I need to talk to somebody about it and actually talk and walk with them, right? And kind of find a resolution in that whatever the conflict might be. Do I need to scream into my pillow? Because unfortunately, right now, society, like you said, doesn't really offer many opportunities for women to have that rightful rage, right? And righteous rage, yeah, rightful and righteous rage. And so do I need to express that someplace where I feel safe with my colleagues, yeah, with my loved one, by myself in a space that feels like I can have that movement, yeah, vocalization, um, literally possibly hitting something that isn't going to do damage, yeah, to myself or to something else. And so that as an example, that's the discharge. So that automatically starts to get your nervous system swinging back up into that place and rest and digest. And the integration is in the acknowledgement of it. Yeah, the acknowledgement maybe for some, and integration can look different too for everybody, but a moment, giving your nervous system a moment to be like, oh, okay, that's what that was. How do I feel now? Right? As opposed to continuing to loop in the anger. Okay, my heart rate's a little bit lower. That feels better. I can take a deeper breath. That feels better. Yeah, my face doesn't like feel it's on fire. That feels better. Yeah, so when we start to be able to identify not only what it feels like to have those emotional expressions and also what the emotions feel like in our body at the end of the day, it's also what it feels like when it feels different. Yeah, so practicing that awareness, being able to say, "Ooh, okay, and now yes, I'm in an okay place. I'm in a place that I can sit, I can be, I can let my system readjust, and that integration will then take however much time it needs to take, or maybe there's another round that needs to happen as well. I don't know. Does that make sense? Was that
It
helpful?
does, yeah. And
Okay.
it makes me think of children and it makes me think of tantrums.
Mhm.
Like I think as adults we should bring back the like stomping on the ground, like
Yeah.
throwing our arms in the air tantrum.
Yeah.
Like it said, I don't have children. I have many friends and like many nieces and nephews, and I've seen many a tantrum. And every time I see a tantrum, I'm like, oh, good for him. Good
Hmm.
for him. Like, why
Yeah.
can't I do that? Like, I just want to break out crying at one point, and somebody can just look at her and look at me and be like, "Oh, she needs a nap."
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be
Exactly.
wonderful? I mean,
Exactly.
kids just have this natural expression of regulation.
Yeah.
They
Yep.
really
Exactly.
do. Until
Yeah.
somebody steps in and stops the regulation. But I mean,
Yeah.
like that natural form of like throwing your hands like an and like, stomping on the ground and moving your body because you're upset and you're mad. And, as adults, we just don't quite get that.
Mm-mm. And it's so you nailed it though, Nicole. You nailed it because it is literally it is bred out of us in
Hmm.
the sense that it is stopped. And this is what can happen too when we have those. So when I was in my car accident, for example, I didn't know it at the time. And I actually have no idea what prompted me to express this or ask this of the people that picked me up off of the ground and put me in the ambulance. But my body was shaking violently,
Yeah.
violently. And they tried to strap me down. I had so many broken bones and so many internal organs that were just, really in bad shape. And so they tried to strap me down, and I said, wait, please wait. I said, please wait for this to at least subside. I didn't know what it was, but I knew my body had to do it. So I shook and shook. And finally, when they started the ambulance and they were like, we have to strap you down because I had broken multiple bones, I wasn't able to hold my body in place. And so, but having that opportunity to shake that out at that moment, I think actually helped in my longer restoration of what happened came after when I was healing and restoring and all of those things. And this is the same idea, right? You see a child collapse, yeah, and what they're doing is they're resetting.
Hmm.
Yeah, their system, too much, too fast, too soon. Whatever's happening, yeah, was too much, too fast, too soon for their little body and their little brain and experienced, nervous system was too much. So you see them just kind of, right? And they just collapse. And then what does the parent do? They try and pick them back up and put them back on their feet. And it's too quick. And now we start to get into the vagus nerve, which is a really incredible cranial nerve that has become very famous now. But what they're doing is with that collapse, is that their vagus nerve is resetting and it's a natural innate thing. And with that stomping around and that, like, the facial expressions that I just made, that the kids are making, the fisting, right? This is all resetting of the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve runs from the back of your head across your face, right? Down your throat through your vocal cords, down into your heart, down through your lungs, down through all of your internal organs into your digestive tract. So think of all the places that that's running. And when we have a torso collapse or when we start to suddenly get a really animated face like that, it's our vagus nerve trying to get back to a place that's like, okay, what's balance? Right? And when we stop that process, it has a harder time getting back to that balance. And so, how can we, like you said, how can we as adults, yeah, have those moments of like, oh, yeah, and just making the noises and making the faces and stomping around and maybe forward folding. Yeah, that's what we do when we're forward folding. And as a yogi, that's what you're doing, right? You're regulating your vagus nerve because it ends, well, it's really interesting. We don't know exactly where it ends, but it's connected in that mid torso area. When we fold forward, it resets it.
My
Yeah.
yoga teacher would tell us, my Kundalini yoga teacher would tell us women need to forward fold anywhere from 4 to 6 times a day.
I believe it.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I always thought to myself, I could just imagine a woman in corporate America, and she's like, 1 second. And just
Yes,
Forward fold in the middle of a
exactly.
meeting. Y'all are stressing me out. I need to fold forward.
Just let me do this. Well, and I see that in veterans too. I'm like, can we just stop for a minute? The veterans that I work with, and because they do there's so much opposition with that, especially if you watch in slow motion veterans, if they're on a shooting range and they're just standing there, what happens is their hips go forward
Mhm.
every single time a bullet goes, yeah, every single time a shot's fired. And that's the opposite of this,
Mhm.
right? So with that, it's now just jolting all of that vagus nerve into a place of motion that's not being completed. Eh, right?
That's
Yeah,
so
it
interesting.
is. It's super interesting stuff. So you're right. It has been, with children, we can learn so much from kids, right? And
Yeah.
also, can we express that when it's appropriate? When is it okay? Yeah, when is it okay for us to find? And this is also part of this work. I know coming from a space of being a space holder, and also you're a space holder, right? And how we hold that space, we have to have the places that we can dysregulate in, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because when we're with our clients, with our patronage, with our community, yeah, when we're facilitating, we're holding the space. And so it's not necessarily the best place possibly for us to break down and have those moments, right? Because we are the ones that, again, the calm nervous system in the room so that other people can attach to that heartbeat, to that breath rate, right, of ours. But who's holding space for you,
hmm hmm
right? Who's holding space for you?
And even like, especially when it comes to anger, like anger is
Hmm.
just, for me, it's just tricky because anger, the question becomes for me is what is the practice? What is the healthy release that doesn't hurt me or anyone else around me? And, what do those healthy releases look like?
Yeah.
And I'm curious, like to me, it's always been, I know it as somatic release. Right. And like in somatic breath, I like sound in somatic breath. Sound is very helpful for me because sound can kind of push out feeling in a
Mhm.
way. And so even when I'm facilitating somatic breath, is I really encourage a lot of sound to start because you can feel it in your body. And it's like if I can connect to that place and then I can push it out with sound, then it is in a way a somatic release. So
Mhm.
I'm curious for you, like, well, what is somatic release?
Yeah.
And what is, and in the training that you'll be teaching down at Blue Heart, are we going to get into safe and effective ways for discharging emotions that may arise?
Yes, yeah, two really good questions. So I'm going to say yes to the second one. Right? So yes, in the training, we'll definitely be getting into, I mean, that's part of it, right? And this is the thing is that within this training, I try and offer a wide range, yeah, a cacophony, not too many, right? Too much, too fast, too soon, but not too many, but enough of a variety because everybody's nervous system is going to be different. So the more tools I have as a facilitator to start to be like, okay, let's try this. Nope, okay, that wasn't the one that your nervous system liked. Okay, let's try this. Ooh, all right, we're seeing a little bit of a difference. Yeah, we're seeing a little bit of a shift. Okay, great. So let's go down this pathway and try this one. Ah, all right, there we go. We got it, right? And so this is going to be part of what we're going to be doing in the training is trying and experiencing these types of somatic body-based nervous system tools and methods that we can then bring into our own spaces in order to offer other people. And so what that is, yeah, what is somatic practice? What is somatic release? Um, Soma, body, yeah, anything that's body-based. But really what it is that it's a shape shifting. And that's, I think that I love thinking about humans. We are such incredible shapeshifters. We adapt. Yeah, sometimes we adapt to the point where it might not be as supportive anymore as it used to be. And then we get into the patterns where we might get stuck in that loop, right? But we also have the ability to find other adaptations that then are more supportive in that moment. And so when we talk about somatic therapy, we talk about work, we talk about somatic practice. Really, what we're talking about is state shifting. We're talking about moving our body from feeling one way acknowledging that feeling, knowing that that's important and valid, and then saying, I can also feel this. I can also get to here. And what does that pathway look like in our body? And to me, that's somatic therapy, the pathway and the feeling of shift. And so for some of us, it might be vocal. Yeah, I'm not a vocal person, so that one's not for me. But for you, yeah, we're there, right? That's very, very important for you. And so how do we also notice as a facilitator, as a person that's holding space, how do we notice what is supporting the people that are with us? Yeah, what practices, what movements, what vagus nerve regulating, you know, tools and methods that we're doing? Is this actually supportive or is it upregulating in a way that's not supportive? And these are also things that we'll learn about in the training is how can you attune? Yeah, what does that look like? How are you already doing it? And how can that actually be experienced and expressed in a group and with individuals? And so when we talk about somatic therapy, and now I can't remember his name, but the founder of brain spotting is another somatic tool and method. It has to do with gaze point and brain and body and everything. And I can't remember his name, but I'll find it. And but he said that in his training, he mentions that our nervous systems are a comet. Yeah, our nervous system is a comet. It is zigging and zagging. It is trying to find the place in our system that can settle, the places that are messaging us that there needs to be a little bit more attention, that something might be going on emotionally, right? What are the attachments to that? What's making it zig and zag? And as a facilitator, I'm following the comet. I'm not trying to pigeonhole and direct it. What I'm trying to do is that through body sensation, through witnessing, yeah, that's the other part of this is somatic witness. I'm watching, I'm experiencing with you. Yeah, I'm seeing your breath, I'm noticing my breath. Yeah, somatic movement, body movement. I'm asking what you're feeling, I'm asking what's going on, and I'm tracking or I'm trying to follow that comet so that we might be able to get a better sense of what its patterns are like. Yeah, where is it going? Why is it going that way? And that can be really hard to see when you're in the comment, right? It just feels like it's all over the place. But as an outsider, as a somatic practitioner or somatic therapist, I'm trailing it, I'm witnessing it, I'm watching it, I'm assisting you to make connections that you're already making. They're just difficult to see as things are zigging and zagging around in your body. Yeah. So I don't know if that's a good answer, but it's general, yeah, because everybody's comet is going to look different. Everybody's how they work through their nervous system is going to look different for so many reasons. Yeah. And this is then we get into what were your resources? You gave such a great example of this was my family. Yeah, this is how we were expected or not expected to express emotion. That has a factor in it. That has a factor as how your nervous system co-regulated with that group of people or not. Yeah. And so this is all stuff that we talk about, we get into, we learn about, and then we put tools in our toolbox so that we can pull those out when we start to be able to witness and see what's going on in the environments that we're holding space in to say, ah, yes, I feel the energy in the room. Urgh, right? Yeah. And then how can we express it in a way that feels like completion? We might call it completion, that feels healthy, right? And that feels appropriate for the time and the space. Yeah.
So for the training, what I gather, and I'd love to hear you say more about it, there are practices for both taking care of yourself as a person,
Mhm.
as a place, as a space holder, as someone who's just having an experience, an emotional experience, or a dysregulating experience. There's going to be practices for that individual, and there's going to be practices for the people who are holding space for others. And being able to follow what their experience is and be a witness to and even help downregulate another person. Is that right?
Absolutely. Or upregulate, right?
Or
Depends on
upregulate.
depends on which way
Yes.
we're going and the balance. But
Yes.
yeah, you're right. Absolutely, Nicole. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And so yes, so everything that we'll be learning, you can use individually for yourself. depending on where you are in your journey, as well as bringing them into your space. And so we'll talk about, right? And this is one of the reasons it's really interesting. We have our 300-hour training. That's sort of the next step after this 20-hour. But we consciously, myself and my partner in that training, with these two trainings, we consciously bring the self, I'll say self-care. I know it's kind of a buzzword, right? But we bring in the importance of that ability to self-regulate and that ability to do our own work as facilitators first. Because I cannot pour from an empty vessel, A, and I have to be a vessel of creative solutions for my space, for my clients. And if I don't have anything to give, whether it be creatively to be like, ooh, let's try this, let's try this, let's try this. I see this, right? If I'm so wrapped up in what's happening within myself, I can't see any of that,
Mhm.
right? I can't see any of that. And so it's very difficult to be a witness and it's very difficult to be of support. And we bring that forward first, especially also in this training that's coming to Blue Heart because it's so overlooked.
Mhm.
When we talk about, like, oh, for heaven's sakes, becoming a yoga instructor, I went through the Bikram training, no self-care, no consideration of how that was affecting my ability to teach, not only physically, emotionally, and mentally. And don't get me wrong, I love the practice. It's one of the reasons that I was my first, it was my first yoga love. And I still love the practice. Man, not so much practice, okay, right? Separate the two. We're separating the two. But, right? And so, but I burned out. I
Sure.
burned out because I didn't understand. I'm like, yoga is good for me. I'm doing it every day, 7 hours a day, 7 days a week, right? It's good for me. No, too much, too fast, too soon. Yeah, and not enough rest.
Mhm.
So this is what I see a lot of in this industry as well, is that burnout happens because these conversations about our care as facilitators doesn't happen.
Mhm.
They're just glossed over, right? Or it comes at the end somewhere, which is like, oh, by the way, find a self-care routine. Good luck, bye.
Yeah.
Right? So
Or
it's
something like,
like,
go get a massage.
yeah, exactly.
Self-love, take a
Yeah,
bath.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, yes, so what you're absolutely right is that everything we're doing is to get to know ourselves better as facilitators, what we need. And also, if you're not a facilitator, take this and run with it, right? Take it and maybe this is the gateway into your next journey, into your next restoration, into your, right, what your nervous system needed in order to feel brave enough to step into a space and say, I can shift this,
Mhm.
right? I can do this. Yeah. And this is the support possibly that I need to do it. And I know a little bit more about my nervous system and I know a little bit more about myself to be able to say, oh, okay, I like this. I'm gonna run with this for right now. Yeah.
And aside from, I mean, I know that we both have yoga training in common, as well as IRES in common. Aside from space holding in that sense, who else would be a good participant in this upcoming training outside of yoga, outside of breath facilitation?
Yeah, great question. And so I will say if you're working with people, come. Come hang out with us, right? Come learn. If you're working with people, come learn. In the past, and I'll say in the past, because I always have new people show up that have new professions, that have new ways of bringing this into their spaces. If you work in a humanitarian sense, yeah, if you're doing any kind of equity work, any kind of activist work, any of those spaces that can feel really charged and very where there's a lot of passion, yeah, this can also give you some kind of framework, possibly for non-burnout, but also possibly when you step into those spaces, how can you create more opportunity for accessibility in what you're doing? And this is kind of also one of the little tangent I'll go off for a moment is when we can when we can be able to notice what's happening within ourselves, the ripple effect of what that is astronomical. Because suddenly, if I'm like, I know how to regulate myself in this situation in this difficult time, and now I can look beyond myself and I can see what's happening in systems. I can see what's happening in organizations. I can see what's happening in politics. And I can see that this is not I don't want to be a cog in this wheel, right? And so suddenly that's how we get different, that's how we get more change is self, yeah, the micro to the macro. And so I would say if you're doing any of that work, come and learn how this can support your community. If you're working with veterans, if you're working with active duty, come. If you're working with their families, because this will ripple out into family systems as well, right? If you're working in healthcare in any way, shape, or form, come. Those systems are not set up in our country to see us as people. And your bedside manner might be incredible, and you might have the ability to see every patient as an individual, but the system doesn't. How can you bring that into that system? How can you learn more in order to make your space the space that people want to come back to and heal in? Yeah, restore in, feel braver in to try the next thing, to be curious about what it feels like again to open up their arms more, right? Physically, to start to explore what a forward fold feels like. That's a brave, brave thing to do when a person's body has been shut down in a place of protection. And
Mhm.
so, if you're doing any type of work like that, if you have a personal business, we had a lot of CEOs that came in last year with this training, really interesting stuff. How can you communicate with your people? Yeah, we'll talk about communication. We'll talk about choice making. We'll talk about creating that brave space. What does it look like to have these hard conversations in corporate America? Yeah. If you're working with bodies in any way, shape, or form, massage therapist, oof, yeah, touch, ugh, yeah, for some of for some of us, yikes, for some of us, yay, right? How can you tell the difference? Yeah, how do you know? And how can you support somebody through that? Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
I also think
absolutely.
about first responders. I have a
Hmm.
very good friend who's been in the fire department for, I mean, it's got to be, I mean, 18 plus years now. And he would call me with stories, and I'm like, I can't even hear your stories. Like it's like what first responders see first to show up to any scene and then to be in that same area every day of their life, knowing what happened in that one spot and just having it, go happen over and over and over again. Like I think of firefighters and I don't know how they do it.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Absolutely. I don't either. And I have so much respect for everybody in that profession. One of my best friends is a police officer in California, and we've had police officers do this training. We had two firefighters last year in our 300-hour training that were with us. They were wonderful people. And yeah, I mean, you can bring this, and it was interesting because they originally had come in to bring the information to their spaces and what happened plus that, right? They did that at the end of the training, but they also noticed where were the places that they needed some assistance personally, right? And so this is a transformative experience. Yeah, it's not only that this training is okay, I'm going to learn this for other people. Hopefully, I'll be able to offer you also what it feels like to learn for yourself,
Hmm.
to take all of this information and have an experiential experience of what transcendence can feel like and look like. And it's not that we're trying to fix or change anything or anybody. It's what are the opportunities that we can offer for them to make choices that feel more empowering,
Hmm. Yeah.
right?
I also think a
Yeah.
lot about teachers.
Hmm.
Especially, I mean, working in the education system, if COVID showed us anything, like COVID showed us the stress that's on healthcare workers
Yeah.
and is on teachers. And it's
Hmm.
like the children that are coming through, the life that we live and with modern technology now is very different than when I was a child.
Ugh.
And so how children are coming through when they are used to being on iPads or in front of screens and things like that. And what teachers have to deal with in children is something that I just can't imagine.
Yes, yeah, come, teachers come, right? Yeah, come, everybody come with us. Yeah, and so that's how I always feel with this question. I'm like, if you just come, like you handle, you hold space, come. Like you have a family, come. You have you're by yourself, come. Like, yeah, it's like
Yeah.
just, yeah, everybody come. But yeah, absolutely. And it is an interesting thing, and um, that's also one of the reminders that I always have, COVID uh, it took us away from each other
Hmm.
as an experience, as a collective experience within our Western society, those of us that were told and able to isolate, it took us away from each other. That was something that didn't happen in other countries where actually being able to isolate was isn't always possible in certain communities, right? But for us here, that connection was broken. We lost a lot of connection. And like you said, now being reintegrated into those spaces of connection, how does that feel for children? What can educators do in order to support that? And how has it affected our nervous systems and then kept us swinging in that loop? Yeah, how can we close that gap, not only for ourselves, but for, yes, possibly the children that have been affected by that, right? Our coworkers, um, all of the individuals that come within that community and all of the spaces and places where we lost that connection during that time. And that reminds me also of the fact that this is partly about the individual work. Yeah, it's partly about doing our own work. This training is partly about learning how to nurture our own work. It's partly how to nurture on a one-on-one facilitator experience and also in a group setting of experience of how do we hold space for a group, but it's also how do we I don't want to say create because community is already there. How do we nurture? Yeah, I'll use that word again. How do we nurture this collective support and the idea that most of us have probably experienced a difficult situation with others, which means that the restoration has to happen with others,
Hmm.
right? A lot of it right now is so emphasized on the I, my work, what I'm doing, my meditation practice, my yoga practice, right? My. Great. And, right, we cannot collectively heal individually and in community without community.
Hmm.
So, what does it feel like to step back into that space? Yeah. So, I appreciate you bringing that forward. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So
Hmm.
we have the training coming up in February.
Yes.
It's going to be 20 hours. It starts on a Friday evening, February 27th. We've got about 3.5 hours. I'm not going to give the exact times, but I'll give the dates. February 27th, Friday, Saturday the 28th, and then Sunday, March 1st.
Mhm.
And there's a sliding scale of entry point for payment. And tell me about that. Like I love that about your training. Like this training is so accessible, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up as well. That's something that's really a foundation of what I do. Definitely sliding scale for our trainings. I also have sliding scale for my individual clients. I feel like it's important. I have worked and lived all over the world, and accessibility means different things for different people. And while it would be wonderful that our sliding scale, my sliding scale was wider, I do try and bring accessibility to everything that I do because if it's not accessible, what's the point? Right? If yeah, and why should it only be accessible to certain groups or certain economic groups of people, trying to make it as accessible as possible, because we're all worthy, right? We're all worthy of learning this. We all should have access to learning how to do this. And so this is one of the reasons why foundationally sliding scale for me is so important. So there are three tiers, right? You can look at it on your website. It has kind of explanations for it. But also if you, and I put this out there because this is also a conversation. Yeah. Money is a conversation. And so, what does that look like for individuals trying to come in now? If you are able to pay, this is sort of the, pay it forward type of a thing, because the money that you're investing might actually be able to bolster somebody else's accessibility. And
Mhm.
so, if you are able to pay, right, great, pay it. Yeah. But if it's a challenge, start the conversation with me.
Oh,
Yeah,
I love
start
that.
the conversation with me. And so that's kind of why I do the sliding scale is to offer this that you have a choice. Yeah, that you do have a choice and it's a conversation starter. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Making sure that things are accessible. Yeah.
Yeah. So a training aside, I'm very much looking forward to the training. I already, even with throughout this conversation, there have been some aha moments for me and some moments of deeper reflection as well, which I'm really excited to sit with. But aside from that, tools and nervous system regulation aside, what does your daily practice look like? As a
Yeah.
space holder, how do you care for yourself and keep yourself connected to yourself on a daily basis?
That is such a good question. And it's really funny because I have this conversation with my clients too, and like the participants in the training, there's always a question of like, what do you do? Because I travel around so much. So daily practice can be really challenging. Because I never know exactly what what's going to be available, where am I going to be staying? What's my sleep going to look like? What zone am I on? But I will say for myself, what I've found is that I take my routine with me. And what that means is that first and foremost, I get up and I do the same routine of how I start my day every single day. And so I wash my hands, right? I'll give you detailed advan not it's not too long, but detailed example. Wash my hands, scrape my tongue, right? Wash my face, brush my teeth, floss, put moisturizer on my face, use chapstick, put moisturizer on my hands, and then I make my hot water with my lemon and my ginger, because those are usually things I can find no matter what country I'm in. And then I go. So I found it, then the time doesn't matter, right? It's more of not the time what time of the day I do it. It's that it's the first thing I do.
Mhm.
It sets me up. It's something that's familiar. And this, in and of itself, right? As humans, we don't like change. We don't like it. It doesn't matter if it's exciting change, good change, bad change, quote unquote, those terms. But change is difficult. If we can find something within our day-to-day life that is routine, that is familiar, this can start to assist us with that balance, that regulation. And for me, it has to be something I can take with me
Mhm.
and something that I can do no matter where I am. I can do that when I'm camping.
Mhm.
I can do that in a high-rise hotel. Yeah, it doesn't matter where I am. I can do that when I'm working with displaced individuals that are living in spaces where water is a resource and it's a luxury. I can still do it. I can still allocate my water to do that, right? So that is how I ground in. Now, if I can get some kind of physical practice in there, whether it be yoga, lifting weights, going for a swim, yeah, that also then assists every day. So I do some kind of movement every day, never really know exactly what it's going to be, but I try and do some kind of movement every day. Also, I look forward to something. So a lot of the times when I'm out and about working within community, looking forward to a hot shower is a big one for me. Yeah, my hot shower is a big one. Now, I might have to look forward to it for 30 days. Yeah. Because the water I'm getting isn't hot, or I don't get it every day, right? But I know it's coming.
Mhm.
I know it's coming. Yeah. So familiarity, some kind of movement, and then looking forward to something, whatever that might be. Or it might be my meal tonight. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to seeing some friends tonight. So that's what I'm looking forward to today. I already did my brush my teeth and all the things. I already worked out. Now I got the third. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Hmm.
what would you say to someone who has sat with us and heard our whole conversation and is just kind of afraid, whether it's afraid to feel their feelings or has looked upon you and I and they're saying, well, I'm not that, or just has fear. What would you say to that person?
Come, come with your fear.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm afraid every day. I was nervous about this call.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, what are we going to talk about? Yeah, what am I going to say? Yeah, come with your fear. You're welcome with us. Absolutely. And that's the other thing too. And, to come back to that routine really quickly, but I think this factors in, it takes a village.
Mhm.
It takes a village for me to do what I do. And I can't do it without you, Nicole. I can't do it without the people that are participating. And that person that's afraid, I can't do it without you either. Yeah, so come and participate with us. You are welcome with us. Come with your fear. The first trauma-informed training I ever did was with a woman named Catherine Ashton in Chicago. She's passed away, but she's one of my mentors. And I told her after that training, it was like my first 50-hour training of what is this whole thing called trauma? And I said, I am scared to death. I am scared to death I'm going to hurt somebody. I am scared to death I'm going to hurt myself. I'm scared to death that this is going to have lasting effects that I can't fix. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to fumble through this whole thing. And she said, good. She said, if you weren't afraid, then you shouldn't be here. So if you have fear, come with us.
And isn't fear a leading edge as well? It's like that fear is right there on the verge of change. It's on the verge of growth. It's on the verge of expansion. It's right there on that leading edge to something new.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, and your fear is valid. I have it too, right? We're in this together and come and learn. Yeah, come and learn with us. I learn something new every single time I offer this training. I learn something new every single day with my clients, right? Yeah, and it is. Fear can be that edge. It can be that space of exploration and bravery. Yeah.
I can't wait for the training. I'm so excited to have you down in San Antonio. I'm so excited to be with you. I'm so excited to learn from you. Um, I I just can't wait. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today and chatting with me and giving us the kind of the broader overview of what's coming with the training. I know that we are offering 20 CEUs for yoga teachers. There's also continued education for other professions. Can you say a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you are coming from another space that needs continuing education hours or, mentorship hours, I know that there's some veterans programs that actually, have been working within those spaces of continuing education as well. So this can be on a personal basis. So we have within these trainings, there are multiple ways that we can offer you, or I should say that I can offer you those continuing education hours depending on what you're looking for. And then I can do those write-ups for you, right? We can make sure that they match up with what you need. And so there's lots of options there. Yeah, to go into all of them individually it's kind of it's a little bit of a mess, but it's possible. Yeah. So, but no, it's possible. And so it can be on an individual basis. And this is also what this training is about. So while we have a curriculum that is set, right? That we will be talking about specific things, learning about specific aspects of the nervous system, learning specific tools. Ultimately, at the end of the day, you will have an opportunity to say, hey, I am bringing this into this space. How do I do that?
Mhm.
And so, with that, right, we will create the rest of the curriculum around what the group and what individuals are really looking for in order to make sure that you get the most out of this time and this training. And that also comes with the CEUs, right? Making sure that you get what you need. Yeah, individually.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Kay.
Yeah, so welcome, Nicole. And thank you. Thank you for chatting with me, taking this time. It's always such a pleasure to, yeah, kind of have these ramblings and have these moments of expression and exploration and explanation. And I just can't wait. I can't wait to come to San Antonio and be in your studio with your community and be with you and yeah, and have this incredible, incredible training experience and hopefully beyond, yeah, with you and with you all.